Hello, everyone. Welcome back to New Pokemon Snap. We're finally leaving the second island and going to, oh boy, the desert.
Oh,
Well, it's not the
man.
second one.
All right, so for a split pass in this game, I'll usually use the day to take one route and then night to take the other. So we at least get something of the alternate pass. But each path has different things going on. So feel free to go down both.
I think that's a good thing to do in this kind of game, especially when you're intended to play the stages as many times. Oh man, it is so weird to see those guys. I forget their name. That Gen 6 Pokemon. Actually, like Heliolisk, whatever. Like actually seeing it extend its frilly thing is so weird to me.
Yeah, but now all it needs to do is eat Wayne Knight.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Wayne Knight myself. It's always the first fucking guy I think of.
Oh, they stick to.
They stick to the cactus. That's awesome.
Okay, that's really funny. Oh man, like so I'm just gonna go into it again. Like, I really hope that they have some of these kinds of details in Pokemon Arceus or Gen 9 or whatever. Because
I don't think they will for Arceus. There's just simply not enough time to polish that game up to this kind of level, I think.
But the reason,
Unless they delay it, which they might not do.
They're not going to because Ishihara and Pokemon Company don't give a shit about quality.
it's such a random
let's
time
finish
for
by
it
that
to
question,
release, though, when you think about it. Because
It's to fit into the 25th anniversary. That's it.
I mean, I guess technically, but January is such a strange time to release a Pokemon game, you know? Because like they can.
My concern is that with the Gen 4 remakes, not only 2 months prior, are people going to be too Pokemon out to even care.
But anyway,
Impossible.
The point I was trying to get at is there are games like Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest XI is like one of my favorite examples because I love that game. But there are lots of little details to the monsters in that game and how they animate and how they interact with the environment. One example is if you have two monsters of the same type and they run into each other on the overworld, they will often interact. Like, for example, there's the two armors. If they walk up to each other and see each other, they will salute. There is a monster who bangs on a drum in Dragon Quest XI, and there are slimes that will bounce around following him, like they're marching in a parade, or if they're staying stationary, they'll be like dancing to the music and stuff like that. These are things that they could do in Pokemon as well. I'm not going to say very easily, but that's the kind of stuff that would really bring the charm out that I think Pokemon is very clearly capable of doing. Because this is kind of stuff we see in this game and in the anime and stuff all the time.
Part of it is going to be, one, the games just need more time.
I agree, 100%.
Which Ishihara and TBC are just not giving them. Two, they just need to stop being cheap.
Yeah.
They have so much money year after year. It's time to hire more staff. It's time to hire more competent staff because no matter what, Game Freak games are pretty much always terrible under the hood.
Yeah.
So they need to start spending some money. It's time to stop being cheap. You're not a mid-sized studio. You're not some poor little indie studio getting off the ground. You're a mega franchise lasting 20 plus years. So it's time to...
It's like thinking about Dragon Quest XI, like that game had like 5-6 years of development time. And it shows when you look at the final product because like everything's really polished and well done. And like Pokemon is a game that is capable of equal quality to Dragon Quest. Like I've been kind of negative lately, but I love Pokemon still. And I would rate my favorite Pokemons up pretty close with my favorite Dragon Quests. You know?
Yeah,
like I love Gen 2, Gen 5.
Yeah, it's like I hate being told, it's like, oh, you just don't like the franchise anymore. It's like, no, I say this because I like the franchise and I want it to do better.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's like people say, oh, why are you still a Sonic fan during the Dark Ages? It's like, because we know what Sonic can be. It's the same thing with Pokemon.
Like, you can go for anything, you know. Just because you critique something doesn't mean it's because you hate it. It's because you hate what it's becoming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just want to see it become better.
Yeah, that's kind of okay. Actually seeing Onyx like as a sandworm is pretty cool. But like,
you know what's funny though, to go back reflecting back on what you said, Ted, about like your favorite Pokemon games being up there, like comparable to one of your favorite RPGs. You know, it's funny because I love Pokemon. Well, not as like not love Pokemon as much as I used to, I still wouldn't put it up there with some of my favorite RPGs. Like I can play Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 5, no problem. Like I enjoy myself, but on a level like Final Fantasy 6, 7, 9, not even close.
I think that might just be a personal taste kind of thing, because Pokemon was the very first video game I ever played. Okay. So there's that. And I mean, like, would I say that, like, Gen 2 or Gen 5 is among, like, I'd say I probably would play Dragon Quest V over either Gen 2 or Gen 5, but certainly it would be a hard decision, you know? Like, I love those games, you know, and they mean a lot. They mean a lot to me, specifically. But I understand in that Pokemon is very simple. That's part of its charm, but I also feel like Pokemon also runs into some traps that I think can make it not super engaging to play when you already know how to do it. That's why, and what I mean by that is that, you know, if you know the game really well, it's just like, okay, I know I should start with Bulbasaur because it's easier for the first 2 gens. And then before I go and fight Lieutenant Surge, I can get a Diglett in the Diglett Cave, and the fight is an absolute joke, you know, and that kind of thing. That's why I've kind of guessed that Pokemon alternate rule Pokemon runs have become so popular.
Or Nuzlocks or randomizers and things like that.
Because, like, especially for people who have played these games inside and out, forcing you to follow different rules makes it feel like almost a completely new game. And I understand that appeal for sure. I just personally, especially with something like Nuzlocke where the rules are completely arbitrary, I feel the need to, like, I feel like, well then, if a Pokemon dies and I'm attached to it, why don't I just, like, bring it back? Like, there's nothing stopping me. It's not Fire Emblem, you know? So yeah, I think that's part of what makes like the bustin', like the boom and stuff like Nuzlocke runs so popular, is just that it forces you to play Pokemon in a way that you would play a more complex RPG, you know, because you normally have to be that careful playing a game like Shin Megami Tensei or Etrian Odyssey as examples. Like, you can't just go in guns blazing in those games because you will die. In Pokemon, it really doesn't matter. That's actually something I was going to bring up when we were talking about special stats and the special physical split. Like, it doesn't really change an awful lot of the gameplay when playing the base game, really. Because all you need is super effective attacks. You can be using you can be using...
super effective in stab, I would say.
Yeah.
That's as far as it goes casually.
Yeah, like, if you're playing as a ghost type in Gen 1, and it has a ghost type move, even though it's using the wrong stat, like, it's using physical attack instead of special attack, like, it's still good enough that it will get the job done, you know? Like, it doesn't really matter. You can use subpar Pokemon, and as long as they're super effective, then you're probably fine. You don't really need to use an awful lot of like, you know, swords dances and reflex and stuff like that. The occasional, like, paralysis or sleep is helpful, but that's actually more just for catching Pokemon than for, like, fights or whatever, you know? So Pokemon, I don't think that we should have a really hard Pokemon game, or at least like a main mode Pokemon that's really hard. Like, yeah, I feel like that goes against the point, but I feel like a hard mode option would be cool.
I think they could up the difficulty a tiny bit. I think that's getting a little too brain dead based on things like, because like Gen 8 forces you to use the experience share, and there's kind of no way to turn it off. And things like that. So it's like, okay, you're going a little bit too easy now.
I remember people making us think about that when Gen 8 made experience share mandatory. And to me, I always just thought that was just them just trying to make it more streamlined, like any other RPG where characters gain experience if they're in the same team.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
I feel like it wouldn't be a problem if there was more things like trainers having more than like one Pokemon, as an example. Like, there are very few trainers in Gens 6, 7, and 8 that have more than 3 Pokemon. If like even most of the gym leaders only have like 3 Pokemon, as an example. Oh, Minior. I love Minior. Fun fact, Minior was the first shiny I caught in Gen 7, but I was really unsure because I kind of blinked while it was doing the swing star. So I was like, is that shiny? But you don't get to see its different colors until it cracks open. And then I was like, oh shit. And I lucked out because it knows explosion when you can catch it.
Oh.
Oh, I think it's self-destruct, but you know what I mean. So
Same
Any shiny
difference.
Pokemon that knows roar.
yeah. But yeah, like I feel like a hard mode option would be nice for Pokemon.
Or at the very least, say I've played Pokemon before options. Just against
I know a lot of people are really sick of the tutorial stuff in Pokemon.
I'll give Gen 8 a little bit of credit to where it doesn't completely force you to do it.
I know that
If
that
you
was a
ain't-
big thing people complained about in Gen 7 was that the intro was very slow. And
It was slow and too handholdy.
I kind of agree with that a little bit. I haven't gone back and played it in a couple years, but it was more slow in the sense that the first island was so small that you saw all of it really quickly, but you couldn't really leave until you had done a couple of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really mind though because the story was engaging. Like I liked the characters in Gen 7, so listening to them talk wasn't really that much of a downside to me, I guess was the big thing.
Hi, Sandshrew.
Oh, I love Sandshrew.
And there's that kid in the top left up here every once in a while. Is that your rival?
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, effectively he's your rival who is basically a generic bratty kid who is also voiced by Erica Mendez because she does all bratty young boys now.
Oh, they have voice acting in this game?
Yeah, every once in a while there's a cutscene with actual voice acting in it.
I am surprised.
They're not very long, but they're there.
I mean, I think
Baby steps, I guess. Pokemon
motherfucker sleeps standing up.
again. Pokemon needs to stop being cheap. Hire some damn voice actors for your game.
I mean, even Zelda has voice acting now. Like, that's something I don't think anybody ever really expected, you know? Like,
Talking about, does Zelda have voice acting since the CDI games?
it was also just one of those, you know.
John?
You got all these voice actors for the show. You get them back for that Masters, gotcha game on mobile.
They have the voice actors in Masters?
Yeah. So it's like, why don't you voice the games? It's like, why?
I mean,
Because Masters is a mobile game. Probably doesn't cost that much.
yeah, but like,
Eh.
nobody is expecting you to voice every single NPC in Pokemon. Because like, even modern day RPGs, you don't voice every like
it's
NPC
like voice
with 2 lines of text. But
It's like voice important scenes, voice gym leaders, voice
Like-
the professor and shit. It's like,
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and I understand some people might say, oh, but if they do voice acting, it's going to be bad. And like, I understand that fear, but you see, there's also this thing called an options menu, and they could also include an option to turn the voice acting off, which, like,
also the fear that voice acting was going to be bad was 20 years ago. We're pretty standardized on at least a competent level of quality here.
I mean,
Unless you're again.
Yeah, it's like I make the Zelda CDI joke earlier, but that's not a metric to measure any sort of future voice acting on.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
As an example, I think that, when Metroid Prime 4 eventually comes out, it should be voice acted, because Metroid Prime 3...
Well, Prime 3 was voice acted.
yeah, it's like, Prime 3 was voice acted. It's just like, okay, people didn't like the voice acting in Other M, so does that mean that they shouldn't voice act it? No, it's that they should do it and then do a good job when they do it again.
It was the Mario Sunshine problem where they did it once, it was bad, and they got so scared they never tried again.
Yeah.
Why am I still alive?
Yeah. It feels a little bit less important in Mario, but like they should still probably do it anyway.
My problem is just again with Pokemon. It's like you already get all the voice actors for the characters anyway because the anime exists.
Yeah.
So you already know what they sound like. So what's your problem?
Yeah,
You.
I know that I don't know how much this is a Japanese thing, Because I remember, and because again, like a lot of this I know from Dragon Quest. I don't know if the Japanese Pokemon fan base is as like purist as the Japanese Dragon Quest fan base, but for Dragon Quest, they were very particular about how they want the game to feel and sound, to the point where when they ported the game to Switch in Japan, that was the first time it had Japanese voice acting. And they made a very big deal in the trailer that you can turn it off if you don't like it. It's not, you don't have to have voice acting. Like, I don't know how much of that mentality is there for Japanese Pokemon fans. If it's the same thing.
I don't think it would, because again, the animes existed for almost as long as the games have.
Yeah.
So it's like, no one in Japan either would have any qualms about, oh, this is what Misty sounds like. Well, they know what Misty sounds like. She's been voice acted for 20-something years. So
I feel like it would be a different can of worms if they were going to voice the protagonist. Like, I don't think anybody really expects that or needs that. At least in a main game. Like, if they were to do another thing...
It depends if it's a main game.
If they were going to do something like Colosseum again, I would say go for it, but...
You actually get the protagonist's personality.
I know. Like, he's so edgy and cool. He blew up the Snatchem base. What's his deal? Nothing. He has no deal.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But isn't his bike cool? It is, but what about him? Man, look at that bike. Such a cool bike. Did they go